Communiqué numéro 1.
Is West Africa going to war over Niger? I mean, I hope no one's going to war, but it's what I keep hearing. Niger's a country in West Africa, and back in July it was taken over in a military coup. As things stand, Niger's president's being kept in his house, and the coup's leader says they'll give power back to the people within 3 years. A group of West African countries said they'd use force if Niger's president wasn't reinstated. But a deadline came and went, and nothing happened. And other countries taken over in coups have come out defending Niger's new leaders. And there's also reports that Niger's new leaders are worried France could attack. Niger is one of a string of coups that have taken place in West and Central Africa in recent years, and a lot of them have been in former French colonies. France used to provide security for a lot of its former colonies, but in some countries France has been thrown out and Russia's been brought in. People are now worried that the Niger coup could help Russia and the Wagner Group expand their influence. I realise there's a lot going on here, so I found someone to help me understand it all. John Sunday Ojo is from Nigeria, which borders Niger. He's studying for his PhD at Portsmouth Uni and specialises in stuff like politics, conflict and international development. And he's written quite a lot of stuff too. Niger was colonised by France between the 1890s and 1960, which is why its official language is French. It's why we pronounce Niger the French way, while Nigeria, a former British colony, is pronounced the English way. In 2021, the election of Niger's president was its first peaceful transfer of power since 1960. But in July this year, soldiers took Niger over. They said that the country was being badly run and that security was a big factor.
We cannot say there is one singular factor that trigger the military takeover in Niger.
But
these multi-dimensional factors can be situated within the failure of a democracy to deliver good governance to the people.
Okay, so the people weren't happy. John also talked about other stuff like corruption, security and development. He also says they're resentful of France.
It is necessary to reflect on the anti-French colonial resentment being popularized by the Nigerian pro-coup citizens in Niamey, the capital of Niger. The coup plotters have leveraged on this anti-colonial populism to reinforce their legitimacy.
What he's basically saying is that those behind the coups are exploiting widespread resentment about French influence in its former colonies. John also says it goes deeper, as countries like Russia are exploiting an anti-colonial feeling that these former colonies have to European countries.
Russia is propelling such an anti-colonial narrative.
I'm going to come back to Russia because it's really important, but for now, let's stay on France, as that's the former colonial power that's being rejected. John mentioned Mali, which borders Niger and had coups in 2020 and 2021. Again, it's a former French colony, and it just dropped French as its official language.
I think they introduced that just to humiliate French government and also to detach themselves from the French colonial ties.
And literally, as I was scripting this video, the army seized power in Gabon, which, spoiler alert, was a French colony. If that coup is successful, there'll have been 8 coups in West and Central Africa since 2020, like in Burkina Faso in 2022, or Chad and Guinea in 2021. And look, these coups all happen for lots of different reasons. They're not all clear rejections of France. Military coups happen a lot in the region, but many of these coup leaders do seem to be rejecting France. ECOWAS is a group of West African countries which said it was ready for military intervention in Niger. It set a deadline, the deadline passed, nothing happened.
If ECOWAS refuses to intervene, it will serve like a motivator to other countries, to carry out similar military takeover. Other authoritarian states like Burkina Faso, Mali, I think also Guinea also, threatened to join Niger and confront ECOWAS troops. So I think military intervention threats cannot solve the problem.
But John doesn't think there'll be war.
We have to consider the level of instability currently in that region. So there is no way ECOWAS can intervene in Niger without a spillover effect of that intervention in the neighboring countries. Military intervention will create more problems for Sahelian region and the entire Africa.
But while the region may be questioning its colonial ties, for France, this whole area, called the Sahel region, is still really important, especially for military reasons.
The Sahelian region is crucial to France. These countries, for instance, host French military bases, just like Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, and some other countries.
A lot of this is about Islamic militants in the region, some who've been linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State group. For a long time, France has been providing security for its former colonies. But recently we've seen France being forced to pull its troops out of countries taken over in coups, like Burkina Faso and Mali. And now Niger's ending its military deals with France. And when France moves out, who moves in? Yeah, Russia. More specifically, the Wagner Group, the Russian private army. Wagner's active in countries across the continent, like Libya, the Central African Republic, and Sudan. Mali called in the Wagner Group to replace the French, and some are worried that the Niger coup leaders could call them in too. But who knows what will happen now that the Wagner Group's leader Yevgeny Prigozhin's been killed in a plane crash.
When I say anti-colonial resentment being propagated by Russian state, this also can be boxed within the context of resource governance related issues. You see what happened recently when the citizens were protesting against a French presence in country like Mali and also in Niger.
Yeah, they protested with Russian flags and chanted Putin's name. He's talking about countries competing for natural resources. Niger's important to France as it's a big supply of uranium, and a lot of it goes to French nuclear power. And in Gabon, the largest private employer is the French mining company Eramet, which mines manganese, one of the world's most used metals. When African countries have called in the Wagner Group, they've often given up a share of their natural resources, like gold, oil, gas, and diamonds.
Exploiting African resources, especially in the Sahelian region.
So why Russia? It's the country that invaded Ukraine, whose leader's been accused of war crimes. Why swap one country that takes your resources for another? This is where I had to change my perspective and try and not look at it through a Western lens.
They have experienced Western presence for a long time and without any result. They are willing to try another intervention being led by Russia with the promise of mitigating these security threats. Russia portrays itself as a savior, leveraging an anti-colonial narrative to market its geopolitical interest in the region. The Sahelian region will serve as a battlefield for geopolitical competition and to be at the detriment of the African nations.